We hit the control panel over there, make sure that we can get the volume off. Great. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to get started. And we talked a little bit before about the idea of sharing what we read. So reading is super important, and it's a great way to make sure that we are staying sharp. And there's a term out there, we talked about this in our newsletter, the summer slide, where sometimes when students come back in September, they're a little bit groggy, where they forget some of the things they learned the year before, and it takes a while to get those reading skills back up. And there is a super top secret way to not just halt that slide, but to actually get smarter over the summer. And I'm only kidding when I say it's super top secret, because it's really easy. It's just to read. And reading, like we talked about, takes a lot of different forms. Some books that we read have pictures, some don't. Some are chapter books, some are picture books. We can read magazines, we can read recipes, we can read, we said before, placards at a park or at a museum. There are so many different things that we can read, and all of them help. The other thing that's important, we can read to our younger brothers and sisters. We can read to our parents, even our grandparents. So we have a lot of different things that we can do in order to read. And what I'm doing, the other exciting thing that we're doing is we're having a lot of people join in right now, which is good. And I'm going to do my best to try to mute people's microphones. But if you are joining in the chat, just do me a favor and make sure that your microphone is muted so that way it won't be echoing and whatnot. But that, again, is why we chose this platform. That being said, at Bear Tavern, we want to learn all of the time. And I took a big risk by doing this, and I was sweating at 10:58 because I wasn't sure how this format was going to work, even though I tested out with a single person. On a big group like this, we'll see how it works. But if you do have an idea, knowledge of technology and of computers, and have a format that we can use, the things that were important to me is the chat feature. And as you look to the left side, you'll be able to enable it at the top of your screen, and then that makes the group chat come up on the right side of your screen. So as we have questions and as we have comments or connections, definitely please chime into those and throw those into the chat bar. And that's an important one, is to have that interaction. But as I was saying, if you do have knowledge or ideas of a platform that might even work better, just let me know. Shoot me an email or give me a call. So we're open to that. So again, if you have a knowledge or know someone who does and come across something that might work, if you come across something that might work, just reach out and let us know. But now to the main event. As we go, though, I want to remind everybody, we started something a few weeks ago, and it's been really cool so far. And I'm going to show you my iPad really quickly. But when we use Twitter, it's a great way to share what we read. We right now are using a hashtag, and it is hashtag #BTSummerRead. And there's a reason that we're doing that, because when you go to Twitter, you can do a search, and when you search a certain hashtag, it pulls up all of the tweets that have that hashtag. So what we'll be able to do, and I just wrote it down for you here, hashtag #BTSummerRead. And as you check that, we're encouraging people to do a few different things, to post pictures of reading in action. And that could mean, and we have Mrs. Finnegan, who just posted a picture of her niece doing some fishing while she's reading, which is pretty cool. And we have everything from kids reading at the baseball field to kids reading in the library at night. We had, it looks like Josie reading hands-free with a lacrosse stick. So we have a lot of really cool, not just pictures, but we also want to share some different ideas. We want to share some ideas for different books, different authors, even different characters, because we know what we like, but we might come across something we didn't know we liked because a friend or someone else read that book and really shared it out. So please, please consider tweeting out with that hashtag #BTSummerRead. And what we're also going to do is have a cool bulletin board when we get back in September that'll showcase some of the different pictures and ideas. And speaking of sharing, just a picture of a random stranger to many of us, but that's a lady. Her name is Pernell Rip. She's just a really good reading teacher in, I believe it's Wisconsin, across the whole country. But on Twitter, it's someone that I follow, and she put out a list that was the top 10 books to spark creativity. So what we did is I grabbed that list, and those are going to be some of the books that we read today. So we're going to get started. This was a read aloud. It wasn't a Mr. Turnbull talk aloud. So we are going to start reading so we can enjoy our books. But before we go, the other thing that we can share with our hashtag is a shelfie. Oh no, not a selfie, but a shelfie. A picture of the books that we are either reading or want to read. So here's a picture of my bookshelf at work. And the next book that I'm going to read, I have it over here. It's called Uncommon Learning. I just finished one book called Principal Voice. But that's next on my list. But the idea that we're going to share what we want to read and what we have already read is a really cool thing. So please join in and do us. So we have a pile of books. We're not going to read all these books, but these are some of the books that we looked at for today's read aloud. And we have 3 books that we have selected. It's a lot of books. Do you know how much they cost me? Nothing. Because I went to the public library, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot say enough. And I know I saw Nathan and Andrea and their mom there when I went to pick up these books. But by just using this little card, you can get unlimited books and you can pay absolutely nothing. So these are really good books and they were all there and available. So don't forget to check out the library. So our first book today is one that doesn't have a lot of words, and it's fun. And it might be a little bit embarrassing for Mr. Turnbull, but we're going to have fun with it because there's some different dialogue and some different characters. And it's by an author by the name of Antoinette Portis. And if there's a glare, don't worry. We'll work on that because I'm going to keep adjusting pages and things like that. So if you're having trouble seeing anything or have any questions, please throw it in the chat portion, and I will take a look. So I'm going to lift this one a little bit. And again, it's called Fruto by Antoinette Portis. And it looks like it's about some birds. So let's see if we can find out. And if it gets a little blurry, don't worry. I'll try to focus it, but take my word for it. All right. All year long, dogs went woof. Cats went meow.
Oh, yay.
Okay, I'm just going to take one quick second. Mrs. Turnbull just joined us with the Turnbull boys, so we're going to mute her microphone. All right, good. That way it doesn't echo. So when we do muting on microphones when you join in, that way it doesn't bounce back. But back to our story. The cats went meow. The dogs went woof. And all of the birds in the neighborhood went caw. And that's the crow. Coo. That's the dove. Chip is the cardinal. And the little brown bird says peep. Chip. Peep. Caw. Coo. And that's in the fall. That's in the spring. So all the different seasons. You notice winter in this one. Coo. Chip, peep, caw. And again in the summer, peep, caw, coo, chip. Until one day, out of the blue, little brown bird didn't want to sing the same song, the same old song. She didn't know what she wanted to say. Caw, coo, chip. But it definitely wasn't peep. Remember, throw in some questions or comments in the chat bar if you have any. Something silly, maybe. Frutal, sprudel. Definitely. Crow was not amused. What did you say? Oodle? Uh-oh. She meant peep. Little brown birds say peep. Like doves say coo. So true, we do. So little brown bird said peep. But 6 minutes later, something else slipped out. Triffle biffle, just a little miffle. Stop! You are a little and brown and you say peep. But she just said miffle. Olives, anyone? Dove liked to keep the peace. That's kind of funny. All right, and we're going sideways for this one. Are you ready? But Not even snack time stopped the silliness from spreading. Because Cardinal figured out, too, that there could be silly red birds, too. Ickle zickle, pickle trickle. And the Cardinal's upside down. Stop it! Too late. Now Dove was wondering if there could be silly white birds. Oobly snoobly! There could. You too, Dove? Try it, Crow. Everyone knows there's no such thing as a silly black crow. Please come back. So the crow is all by herself over there. You too, do something. We'll mind our peeps and coos. Lost cause. But little brown bird knew they wouldn't mind them forever. So she wondered, could crows be silly too? Cloggin, zoggin, itsy boggin. Fooblick, dooblick, knock a crewbrick. Sliggy, quiggly, zinker triggy. Buppy, scruppy, hup hup. Whoopee! Crows could. Floatin', yachts, pleamish, ots, flisk, blurv, inkpadink. The neighborhood would never be the same. Schmoodle, skerpoodle. So even the cats and the dogs started acting silly, but everyone acted silly together. And that is the end. And I really like that book because not only is it really silly, and it's a nice change of pace, but it's pretty creative and has a lot of different dialogue and characters in it. So, we talked about sharing, and we said that the author of this book was Antoinette Portis. Another book by Antoinette Portis, I decided to take a look because I liked that book, and it was just silly and it was something different. So I looked at some other books that she had written, and she writes a few of them. One is called Not a Box, and one is called Not a Stick. We're going to read Not a Box today, and it's a really short one, and even if you're in 5th grade, it's still pretty cool, even though it's pretty simple and basic. So what I'm going to ask, though, is, good. I like that Mr. Umstead just put something on the chat bar. That's what I was going to say. Let me know that you're alive out there, please, and give me some questions and comments. But we do change voices when we use dialogue, and that helps the story to be more understandable. So if you're practicing at home, even if you're reading to a younger sibling or reading to grown-ups, really work on getting into that dialogue and into changing up some voices. So that's good. But like I said, a lot of times by sharing, you're going to find some different books by the same author, and that's always a good idea. So keep that in mind. If you like a particular author, see if that person writes other books. So we have Not a Box. And like I said, it's a pretty simple one, and I want you to pay attention to a few things. I want you to pay attention to the colors on it, because right now on the cover we have black and we have red. So let's take a look. Not a Box by Antoinette Portis. To children everywhere, and this is the dedication page, to children everywhere sitting in cardboard boxes. Why are you sitting in a box? It's not a box. And look at what, and notice the black and the red. And in that little bunny's mind, it's certainly not a box. Anybody want to throw it in the chat bar what they think it might be? That is correct. It's a race car in this case. But let's keep it going. What are you doing on top of that box? And I think we know what he's going to say. He's going to say, it's not a box. And he has a picture of Rabbit Peak. So instead of a box, he's on top of a big mountain. Why are you squirting a box? What do you think he's going to say? On the count of 3, everybody. 1, 2, 3. It's not a box. He says, I said it's not a box. And in this case, he's a fireman, but you can still see the black where the box is. and everything else in red. So this person now became a firefighter. Now, you're wearing a box. This is not a box. And there's the box with the rabbit, but it also looks like a robot. Are you still standing around that box? It's not a box. And this is great. And take a look at each one of these. We have a rabbit in a hot air balloon. We have a rabbit in a pirate ship with a crow's nest. We have a rabbit on a tugboat and a rabbit riding an elephant. So all of these things. And what's that word right now? The rabbit right now is using a lot of something, a real lot, to make a box into all of these cool things. Well, what is it then? The rabbit's thinking. It is not a box. We have some planets and, finally, a pretty awesome spaceship. So we definitely have a rabbit that used a lot of imagination and a lot of creativity, and it gets you to think about some of the other things that we can see when we look. And there's a lot of different quotes and cool stuff that says creativity is seeing what other people, or looking at what other people look at, but seeing what no one else sees. So sometimes it's really great to use your imagination, even if it's a little bit different, that's okay, but to keep on thinking. So we are going to go on to our last book, and it was the top book on the list that Pernell Rip shared, but it is a really, really cool book, not just because it's fun to read and good to look at, but the message is really, really important. So I want to take a second and read The Most Magnificent Thing, and that's by Ashley Spires. And it's going to give us a good message, but it's also something pretty cool. And we use a lot of these words at Bear Tavern that we're going to see, and maybe let's see if we can connect and take a look at the message that's involved. So, here we go. The Most Magnificent Thing. And we'll notice the girl's carrying around a big wagon full of a lot of different stuff. Written and illustrated by Ashley Spires. This is a regular girl and her best friend in the whole wide world. They do all kinds of things together. They race, they eat, they explore, they relax. She makes things, he unmakes things. I'll work on getting the picture a little bit closer. One day, the girl has a wonderful idea. She is going to make the most magnificent thing. She knows just how it will look. She knows just how it will work. All she has to do is make it, and she makes things all the time. Easy peasy. First, she hires an assistant. Next, they gather their supplies. They set up somewhere out of the way and get to work. A lot of people looking on. The girl tinkers and hammers and measures while her assistant pounces and growls and chews. When she is finished, she steps back to admire her work. She walks around one side. Her assistant examines the other side. It doesn't look right. Her assistant picks it up and gives it a shake. It doesn't feel right either. They are shocked to discover that the thing isn't magnificent or good. It isn't even kind of okay. It's all wrong. And the girl tosses it aside and gives it another go. So she smooths and wrenches and fiddles. Her assistant tugs and circles and wags. When she is finished, she stands up and takes a long look at it. Her assistant gives it a nudge with his paw. The thing is still wrong. She decides to try again. Looks like she might be getting frustrated by looking at her face. The girl saws and glues and adjusts. She stands and examines and stares. She twists and tweaks and fastens. She fixes and straightens and studies. Wow. She tries all different ways to make it better. She makes it square. She makes it round. She gives it legs. She adds antennae. She makes it fuzzy. She makes it long. She makes it short. She makes it rough. She makes it smooth, big, small, and one even smells of stinky cheese. But none of them are magnificent. Her hard work attracts a few admirers, but they don't understand. They can't see the magnificent thing that she has in her mind. She gets mad. The angrier she gets, the faster she works. She smashes pieces into shapes. She jams parts together. She pummels the little bits in. And look at her face. Her hands feel too big to work, and her brain is too full of all the not right things. If only the thing would just work. Crunch. Oh boy. The pain starts in her finger. It rushes up to her brain, and she explodes. It is not her finest moment. Give me a connection symbol if you've ever been frustrated like that before. And she says, I'm no good at this. I quit. Her assistant suggests a walk. It's not much help at first. But before long, she starts to feel different. Bit by bit, the mad gets pushed out of her head. As they stroll along, she comes across the first wrong thing she made. The bad feelings are about to start all over again. Then she notices something surprising. There are some parts of the wrong things that are really quite right. The bolts on one, the shape of another, the wheel-to-seat ratio of the next. There are all sorts of parts that she likes. By the time she reaches the end of the trail, she finally knows how to make the thing magnificent. She goes to work. She works carefully and slowly, tinkering, hammering, twisting, fiddling, gluing, painting. Her assistant makes sure that there are no distractions. And we have some dialogue. The little boy says, "This one's all wet. This will stop the leak. This is the perfect thing to ward off bears." The afternoon fades into evening. Finally, she finishes. She alerts her assistant. The pair take a good, long look. It leans a little to the left, and it's a bit heavier than expected. The color could use a bit of work too, but it's just what she wanted. They climb aboard and take it for a spin. They are not disappointed. It really is the most magnificent thing. The end. So, those were just 3 books. There's a lot more, and we're going to have another read aloud soon. So what I'm going to ask, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the video of it, please reach out, whether it's calling in school or emailing me if you have other great ideas, if you have suggestions for books, or even ways that we can make this better. But the important thing is that we can connect and get people excited to come back to school in September, but also that we can work together to find some great ways to read and things to read throughout this summer. And one thing that we're really going to work hard at is encouraging everyone to use Twitter and to use that hashtag BTSummerRead. So, we want to encourage people to work together, share those pictures, share those other things, and also, though, think about what we saw and what we did with the most magnificent thing. Because the little girl in the story, she made a plan. She came up with a plan and she built it. Then she analyzed it, and she tested it, and she revised it. And that sounds familiar. It's what we talk about here as the engineering process, the engineering design process. But more importantly, she never gave up, and she kept thinking of new ideas even when other people didn't see it. She saw it in her head, so she never quit and never stopped believing in it. So I want to thank you all for participating in our first read aloud. We will have another one on August 10th, I believe, and I will confirm that date. We're going to have some special guest readers. We want to add some new people into the fold, so some people will come in and join me and read some books. So I'm going to look at the Twitter hashtag to get ideas for new books. I have some already, but we're going to keep continuing to look. But please don't forget to share pictures and authors and books that you want other people to check out too, and tell us what you liked about them. Show some pictures of your shelves. Remember the shelfies. And keep reading and keep learning. Please reach out if you need anything at all. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining us for the first Bear Tavern Summer Read Aloud. Have a great day.